My entitled partner sold me for quick cash and got instant karma. For 5 solid years, I was the guy who funded my girlfriend's champagne lifestyle on a beer budget. I didn't just pay for things, I financed an entire illusion. I paid for the designer bags that swung from her arm, the Michelin star dinners she'd post on Instagram, and the rent on a luxury apartment she acted like I was lucky to even share. But when she made the decision to sell not just my career, but our entire 5-year relationship, for what was basically a weekend shopping spree, she learned a very public and very permanent lesson about what betrayal really costs. She thought she was cashing in on my hard work, but what she got instead was instant karma, served ice cold and broadcast live for the entire world to see. Before we get into this absolute roller coaster of a story, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You don't want to miss the weekly stories I post about entitlement and karma, and it really helps the channel out. Alright, you ready for this? Let's dive in. I first met Chloe at a crowded house party. The music was loud, the air was thick, and I was mostly keeping to myself, feeling a little out of place. Then she walked in and it was like one of those cheesy movie moments. She had this vibrant energy, a smile that could disarm a bomb, and a laugh that cut through all the noise and made you forget every single one of your problems. We talked for hours and I was completely hooked. In the beginning, spoiling her felt incredible. I had a stable, if unexciting, IT job, and I was pouring all my passion into a graphic design side hustle. Taking her to fancy places and buying her gifts felt like what you were supposed to do when you were crazy about someone. It was my way of showing her she was special. But sharing my success slowly and insidiously started to feel a lot more like funding her existence. Within a year, she had moved into my apartment. It started with a toothbrush, then a drawer, and then suddenly her entire wardrobe had colonized my closet. Her contribution to our life together was, well, it was zero. I covered the rent, every single utility bill, the groceries, the internet, her phone bill, everything. She lived a completely rent-free, expense-free life, but somehow it was never enough. And I know, looking back, I was the one who enabled it. I kept telling myself her happiness was worth the mounting credit card debt and the constant low-level anxiety about my bank balance. The red flags were there, waving furiously, but I think I was just willfully colorblind. For her 25th birthday, I spent weeks secretly designing a custom silver locket. I'm not a jeweler, but I sketched out this intricate, interwoven pattern that was completely unique to us. It was personal. It was from the heart. It represented months of thought and all the love I felt. When I gave it to her, she put on this thin, polite smile. "Oh," she said. "It's sweet." Later that night, I accidentally overheard her on the phone with a friend, her voice dripping with disappointment. "It's sweet, I guess," she sighed. "But honestly, a new Gucci belt would have been more useful. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?" My heart just sank. That sense of entitlement wasn't a one-off thing. It grew like a weed. It turned into this constant, grinding tension between us. You know those stories you read online about partners who expect to be treated like absolute royalty? That was my daily reality. If I suggested we just order a pizza and watch a movie instead of going to a $300 dinner, I was being cheap and unromantic. If I was completely exhausted after a 12-hour workday, I was being boring. Her temper, which I once naively thought was just a fiery passion for life, turned out to be genuinely scary. One time she got so blindingly furious that I wouldn't co-sign a loan for a brand new luxury car I knew we couldn't possibly afford that she punched a clean hole right through the living room wall. She stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the hole as if it had personally offended her. And of course I was the one who paid to get it patched up and repainted. I always paid. Meanwhile, I was practically killing myself with my side hustle, desperately trying to build my graphic design portfolio. The ultimate dream was to quit my soulless corporate gig and finally launch my own design agency. And I was so close. I had just landed the single biggest project of my entire career. A full brand redesign for a major tech startup. It was all top secret, locked down under a strict non-disclosure agreement, but it came with a life-changing bonus. A bonus that would let me finally quit my job and launch my dream. Chloe knew all about it. She knew about the sleepless nights, the endless pots of coffee, the stress headaches, and the huge payday waiting at the finish line. But she only saw the dollar signs, not the passion or the sacrifice. To her, it wasn't our future. It was her personal piggy bank, and she was getting impatient for the withdrawal. The moment I found out, there was no dramatic movie-style confrontation. It was quiet, it was digital, and it just hollowed me out completely. I decided to come home early one afternoon, wanting to surprise her with her favorite Thai takeout. But the apartment was empty. Her laptop was open on the coffee table, left on and unattended. As I set the food down, a new email notification popped up on the screen. The subject line read, "Final payment for Project Nightingale files." My blood went ice cold. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. Project Nightingale, was my secret code name for the startup project. The name I had told only her. My hands were trembling as I clicked the email and my entire world just fell apart. It was a whole chain of emails between Chloe and some slimy bottom-feeding tech gossip blogger. For weeks she had been taking screenshots of all my work. Early drafts, confidential mock-ups, font explorations, color palettes, everything, and selling it to him. She was leaking my confidential, career-defining project piece by piece. And the price for 5 years of my trust? The price for my entire future? $5,000. That's it. Barely enough for the weekend trip to Miami and the new handbag she'd been whining about for a month. Reading through the emails, her tone was so disgustingly casual, so flippant, like she was selling a used couch on Facebook Marketplace. Here's the latest logo revision, she wrote in one. My BF is stressing so hard about it all. Send the next payment when you can. She had sold my entire future for a quick, dirty payday. When she finally walked in the door, humming a cheerful tune, I didn't even raise my voice. I couldn't find the energy. I just felt empty. I simply turned the laptop screen toward her. I saw a flicker of pure panic in her eyes, a deer-in-the-headlights moment that lasted for maybe a single second. But it vanished almost instantly, replaced by a mask of pure, unadulterated defiance. So what? She said, crossing her arms defensively. It's not a big deal. You're talented, you'll make other stuff. Besides, this blogger is going to give me exposure. He's going to make me famous. It's called networking. I just stared at her, completely speechless. The audacity was breathtaking. You sold me out, Chloe. For $5,000. I will never ever forget what she said next. She scoffed at me. Don't be so dramatic. It's just business. You were taking forever to get that bonus and I have needs. Things I want. You were being slow, so I found a faster way. There wasn't a single shred of remorse in her voice. Just the cold, hard, unshakable belief that the world owed her whatever she wanted, and I was just the guy who was supposed to pay for it all, no questions asked. In that precise moment, hearing those words, something inside me just snapped. The quiet, accommodating guy who'd let her walk all over him for 5 long years was just gone. He died right there in that living room. The only thing people like Chloe understand is consequences. Hard, public, humiliating consequences. So, I decided I was going to give her one she would never, ever forget. The very first thing I did after kicking her out, and I packed her bags myself and left them in the hallway, was call my client. It was the most terrifying phone call of my life. I laid it all out, the whole sordid story, fully expecting to be fired on the spot and probably sued into oblivion. But to my astonishment, the CEO wasn't just mad at me. He was absolutely furious at the blogger. So, with the full backing of their powerhouse legal team, we came up with a plan. We weren't just going to mitigate the damage, we were going to set a trap. The blogger, dripping with an arrogance that only comes from profound ignorance, announced a special live reveal event online. He was promising his followers he would expose a huge tech company's stolen brand identity, acting like he was some kind of crusading journalist instead of a common thief. He invited a bunch of other influencers and tech personalities. And sitting right there in the front row, glowing under the camera lights, was Chloe. She was dressed to the nines, desperate to be seen, desperate to be a part of the world she thought she'd bought her way into with my future. The event started, the live stream went active, and tens of thousands of people tuned in to watch the drama unfold. The blogger strutted onto the stage, grinning like an idiot. Tonight, he announced with a dramatic flourish, we expose the truth. He pointed to a giant screen behind him and what looked like my designs flashed into view. You could hear an audible gasp from the crowd. Chloe looked like the cat that got the canary, a smug, triumphant smile plastered across her face. But her smile melted as a man in a crisp, expensive suit walked calmly onto the stage and smoothly took the microphone from the stunned blogger. It was my client's head lawyer. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, the lawyer said, his voice as smooth as glass but as sharp as a razor. And thank you all for attending the final beta test for our new anti-theft and digital watermark protocols. He went on to explain that every single design on the screen was a fake. They were decoys I had created after discovering the leak, intentionally flawed and embedded with invisible digital watermarks that traced them directly back to the source. Then, with a single dramatic click, the screen behind him changed. It revealed the real branding, and it was 100 times sleeker, more innovative, and more brilliant than the fakes. The room absolutely exploded with spontaneous applause. But he wasn't done. Corporate espionage, he continued, his eyes scanning the crowd and then locking directly onto Chloe, is a serious crime. And here at our company we take it very, very seriously. Then he played an audio recording for the entire room and for everyone watching the live stream. It was the recording of me confronting Chloe, my voice shaking with disbelief. And then her voice, clear as a bell, echoed through the now dead silent venue, admitting to everything. It's not a big deal, her recorded voice said. I have needs. The humiliation was instant and total. Chloe's face, plastered in high definition on the giant screen for everyone to see, just crumpled. The blogger started scrambling to cut the feed, tripping over cables, but it was far too late. The lawyer announced they were pressing full criminal and civil charges against him and his confidential source. As two security guards started walking purposefully toward Chloe, the very influencer she'd sold me out for started screaming, pointing right at her. I don't know her. He tricked me. It was all her. Her instant karma was being publicly thrown to the wolves by the exact people she sold her soul to impress. They literally booed her all the way out of the room. The fallout was as fast as it was brutal. The blogger's channel was suspended, and he was completely buried in legal fees from my client's lawsuit. He was forced to issue a groveling public apology and his online career was over. As for Chloe, she became a social outcast overnight. The clip of her confession, complete with her face crumpling on the big screen, went viral. She was forever known online as the $5,000 girlfriend. The so-called friends and influencers she was so desperate to impress dropped her instantly. No one would work with her. She tried posting a tearful filtered apology video, but she just got roasted into oblivion in the comments. Last I heard, she had to move back to her hometown and was working a retail job at the mall to pay off her mounting debts. My client was so impressed with my loyalty, the quality of the real designs, and my role in the countersting operation that they gave me my full life-changing bonus and hired me on the spot as their new head of creative design. I finally have the career I busted my ass for, the one I dreamed of during all those sleepless nights. My life is quiet now. There's no more drama, no more manufactured crises, no more financial bleeding. That whole nightmare taught me a hard and painful lesson about my own worth, but it also set me free. My value isn't about what I can buy for someone else. It's about my own work, my own passion, and my own integrity. And the best part? I built a life for myself that Chloe, with all her wants and needs, could never ever afford. And that's how my ex-girlfriend's greed and entitlement led directly to her own spectacular downfall. If you enjoyed this little story of karma being served, do me a solid and hit that like button. It really does help out. Make sure to subscribe for more stories about entitlement getting exactly what it deserves. I post new videos every single week. Now I've got to ask you, have you ever dealt with someone this entitled? What's your best instant karma story? Drop it in the comments below. I promise I read every single one. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can't put a price on loyalty, but betrayal always has a price tag. See you in the next one.